disclosure, we're going to be real serious for the first 15 minutes or so about how masculinity is a toxic death cult. But I promise the fun starts right after that. So step this way to the Dim Carnival.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dim Carnival. I'm Bill.
I'm Steve.
And I'm Ryan.
And this week we're talking about the last portion of Riddle Box, the 1995 third Joker's card by the Insane Clown Posse. This is the last 5 songs off of the album, and only 5 songs. Takes about half an hour to listen to the 5 songs. Legit, well over 26 minutes worth of music in these 5 songs. Gotta admit, album's pretty front-loaded. But, there's some quality stuff in here, so let's get started with, I'm sure, Steve's favorite song of the week. It's a Lil Somethin Somethin.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear all of your thoughts about this song, Steve. It's been I feel like it's been a whole build-up up to this point, because I feel like this is the first. I was trying to think back, like, there aren't any, like, whole romantic sex songs, if you want to call it.
Yeah, this one's a love song.
Romantic. Lots of songs about fucking before, but not so many about romance.
And this is the song about sex so far in their catalog that's the least about STDs.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't like this song, guys. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I didn't really catch anything romantic about it. It starts off with Mr. Jackson accusing a lady of being a bitch and a cunt because she goes to what I assume he's talking about, some kind of orgy parties, and he's not invited, and it sounds like he's upset about it.
Oh, I read that differently. I thought he was trying to get her to go. She's being more modest, and he's like, "Oh, I'm not a respectable gentleman. You know what's up. Come to the sex party with me."
Well, maybe so.
I always thought it was like a sexual harassment kind of thing.
The romantic part about the song is that the protagonists of the song are insistent that they don't care about who their partner is. They just want to have sex.
Did you hear Jay singing? You didn't think that was romantic?
Mm-hmm.
No, the thing is, like,
playful.
I mean, of course they have the line that I always love, no matter how much I don't like a song. Anytime they say sticking their nuts in someone's butt is always brilliant and genius to me. So, I mean, I made a note of that because I did want to say something positive about the song. But sometimes even with these sex songs that I don't like, the music's still pretty cool and like it's still catchy, and then that's what makes me hate it, because I'll have like a loop of like bitch or tits or ass crack, or something stupid like that, just like looped in my head, and it's a little bothersome. This one, I might be wrong, and maybe I'm just like projecting too much and not liking the song, but like I even felt like it kind of sounded like a nursery rhyme, the music, kind of like a nursery rhyme feel to it.
Yeah,
it's creepy. I mean, and I know that's not even like their direction, and I know they're not thinking that way. I mean, they would never sing like that, but made me dislike it even more.
Well, and Steve, in Violent J's verse, he guesses that she's 15 years old. Not a day over.
That's right.
So, I think it kind of goes.
Well, that's right, because you're right, because he does say as long as the net is hairy. That's really.
Well, he's also the reason that he has sex with the woman working at the Dairy Queen is because the rumor is that she's the dirtiest woman in the whole town. He doesn't have time to not have sex, is the point of that verse.
Where's the romance in this song you guys keep talking about?
Here's you talked about the music, and I want to really address the music in this song. It's spectacularly dense. There's a lot of birds chirping. There's a lot of animal sounds in this song.
Yeah.
To me, this is what Insane Clown Posse and Mikey Clark, or what Insane Clown Posse told Mikey Clark they think of when they think of music that is romantic. Like bells chiming, sing-songy, nursery rhyme, toy piano, birds chirping. Like, that's to them like the epitome of what a romantic song sounds like, or what romance sounds like. And they're singing a lot of the song, and they're being like cutesy, like, playful, just playful voices, little chicky. It's very like cutesy, and obviously like what they're saying, the content of what they're saying is specifically made to be shocking and counter to what the music sounds like.
Fucking brilliant, Bill. Perfect.
Steve, you don't even like when they start going like a little something.
No.
Okay.
No, I don't.
This is.
I feel like they're in some personal movie.
we've had a lot of conversations about like these like seemingly porno clips that they make. Like this to me is the song where it's like pretty overt that they're not samples. They're making these clips.
You're so
partly because every porno clip they ever use is the same woman saying all this stuff.
So, okay. So what I think is, I was listening to this song and I was thinking about the response of the woman in the beginning, how she's kind of obviously turning him down. Then the song starts and he says, "Hey baby, I heard you like to freak." And her response is, "Oh, well, I guess so," which is a reluctant approval or whatever agreement. But I feel like I was listening to it and I started to think about how I'm inclined to want to try to find justification for something redeeming in an irredeemable song.
Right.
And I feel like that's something that we do as something that's linked to nostalgia or something like that. But the other things I started thinking about is that this song was written 20 years ago, or more than 20 years ago. And it might have been written at a time where the collective thought was about something that was different than it is now. And so we'll be talking about in the next song, Old Evil Eye, the parallels between their music and Edgar Allan Poe. Mm-hmm. Which, like, in context, if Edgar Allan Poe today was writing that kind of stuff, then people might think differently about him or whatever, his influence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the question that I had, and this what I want to preface this by saying that, like, I was a child when I first heard this music and this song, and appealed to me in various ways as a young person. But the fact that they had to make all the choices. They wrote the song, they wrote the lines of the woman in the song. They didn't need to include anything about consent in any way, but. Mm-hmm. But they chose to craft a narrative where the woman is consenting or is a part of, wanting to be a part of what's going on, albeit reluctantly. I feel like the reason why they wrote it is because it plays into fantasies of domination, that like women are all secretly like have angsty sexual desire and they're just waiting for a man to come and like fuck them or whatever. That's a really pervasive, damaging male fantasy in masculinity, if I'm right, I'm not incorrect in that. No, okay, so that's what I think. That's what I think the song is about. But now that I'm, 20 years older than when I listened to it the first time, I start thinking about these weird things of like, well, they didn't have to make it so that it was seemingly consensual or whatever. They could have just been like, they overtly have non-consensual interactions with women, like, in their other songs. So I just think it's weird that something that is that I'm, how do I say that? I just think it's weird that I'm inclined to want to try to defend something that I liked when I was young.
Yeah. And I like, it's very, like, I'm obviously very conflicted a lot, talking about the music, but especially like it's weird that I keep trying to, justify. I mean, I don't always. I feel like I don't always try to justify stuff, but it's interesting to me that because I don't, particularly have any specific fondness for this song, but like even a song like this where it's like I don't really care about it. Why am I being so like charitable? But I totally agree with you, and I like what you have to say, and I also think that it's important anytime you're talking about stuff like this that's problematic is to you have to ground it contextually, historically, because 1995 is a spectacularly different year from 2018. And things were different, and people talked about things in different ways, and things that shouldn't be acceptable were way more acceptable than they are now. It's a different time, and you have to account and allow for that when talking about stuff, because like if you look at any comedy film before the year like 2009 even, like they're spectacularly like homophobic and misogynist. Like it's unfortunate. Like you go back and you watch stuff and it's like, holy shit, they thought this was cool. All right. But it's just like there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, not watch it, not listen to it. That's about it. Or am I wrong?
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said you can just not watch them or listen to them, and there are plenty of people who make that choice, but it's incredibly difficult, and I'm like feeling just like you guys, where I'm like, am I really defending something because it's something I've really liked for so many years, and like you said, and like you said, you go back to. It was a different time, and I think back to what I thought like in '95. I can remember very clearly, and I was very much a moron, and I like to think that I grew like society, and I grew with society on what I find to be appropriate and inappropriate, and but it is really difficult to do this when you go back and try to justify stuff. Because if I was sitting right in front of someone who was a survivor, of any type of things that happened in these songs, like, I mean, I wouldn't even disrespect them by trying to defend it. You know what I mean?
Well said.
No.
Yes.
So that's interesting, Steve, because I would be curious how ICP really feels about it, and I'm actually really curious. When we get to future albums and current music that I haven't heard before, I'm interested if it's different. Because in 2013, I'm assuming it was Violent J tweeted, just some random day that he said something like, I don't care what our lyrics say. Women are number one, and we all owe our lives to women.
We all owe our lives to Weemon.
Weemon.
Right. Sorry, Weemon.
The ancient pagan god.
And so obviously you're just like composing a tweet and saying, disregard all this other horrible shit that I've said. I like women are cool now. Like, doesn't undo all of that, obviously, but I'm curious, like, I feel like their politics have softened already from the last couple albums that we've listened to. And so I'm curious if they have the lead singer of Minor Threat, Ian MacKaye, his philosophy about the early songs that he wrote, like Guilty of Being White, and that he feels like that's how I felt at the time, so I want to leave that out there, even though he maybe feels embarrassed, or I don't know exactly how he feels about it. It's problematic. But he doesn't say like, oh, well, I don't want to erase this song from my past. It's something that I did. It's something that I put out there, and I have to deal with it now, even if I don't necessarily agree with it any longer.
Yeah, that's the tough thing about having art, like putting out art, and knowing that a person is going to change and become different throughout their lifetime. It's not like you can take the art back.
And it's specifically and that kind of plays into something else that if I could spin it in a nicer way, that I was thinking about how impressive it is to me that these guys are still doing what they're doing and still loving it and still like loving each other and having a great time with it. I was looking at Twitter of pictures of shows that were happening over the weekend, and they're still loving it, you know, and they're still doing the same, like they're still in the same zone together or whatever, and that's really admirable for anybody who does anything creative with another person.
Definitely. It's hard. It's incredibly difficult to keep up that passion for it, especially after so many years.
I think, like, as you said, like, we're already seeing a shift away from, you know, overt violence against women in their first album or two to it being, like, comical. And, you know, and then they'll shift more in subsequent albums as they start to realize, like, obviously part of it, I'm sure, gets tied up in how important, like, gigolettes become to, like, their commerce. Because they realize, like, oh, a lot of women are like our music. We should probably be cooler to women just in general. Like, regardless of how they felt about it, it's good for business.
Well, all I want to say is, like, when I was 14 or 15, this song was my kind of humor. I didn't mind that it was degrading to women. I thought it was hot that the thought of some chick that wanted to get down really bad. And I didn't, and so all of the really horrifying imagery, that they rap about, I thought was hilarious. And so I feel
it's a very teenage mindset of, like, what would be hot or, like, what would be funny. Like, it's very juvenile.
Right. Yeah.
Nice.
Have you guys ever done the nasty to ICP?
Oh, no.
And by the nasty, I mean take a poop.
Definitely. Only for this show. You know, time constraints and all.
Now, you correct me if I'm wrong, but you talk about how much you enjoy the nuts in their butt line, and anytime. But correct me if I'm wrong, but have you not gone on record before as saying that, like, anytime ICP says nuts in the butt, you, like, imagine them, like, inserting nuts?
Yeah, like taking each testicle and slowly trying to push it in the anus. And that's why it's really... And then I picture when they've succeeded, they're just, like, standing there with their wang hanging out and their balls, like, stuffed in an asshole. And it's a great image to me.
And then they do, like, the Superman pose? Or...
Now they just say the nuts are in your butt. And that's that.
I know.
Wow.
There's all kinds of things you can do from there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, especially if you have such nutsack control as these gentlemen espouse.
Yeah, they call it, his name is Stretch Nuts.
Right.
But he doesn't have a nutsack.
Called Cram Nuts. All right.
So there's a little bit of a skit at the end, which is interesting. How I never really realized how the songs flow together, that the skits sort of overlap, the beginning and end of each track.
Mm-hmm.
So this one ends with us being introduced to the Wicked Carney Theater, and we're gonna see something that's very scary, so scary that it's going to smooth out your scrotum, smooth as eggs, and then fade. I don't know if that means in color or, like, fizzle out the hairs around your butt.
Mm. I think that means fade like a fade, like a haircut. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
So yeah, this is Old Evil Eye, and this is in the mythology of the world. This is just a movie, and I think this is the first time that that's happened in Insane Clown Posse's discography here. Just a movie. That's what Old Evil Eye is. It's a scary movie. They're watching a horror movie.
I was gonna say, did I bring up before about how I felt like this album was more about, like, what the clowns actually are doing the whole time?
I think so.
Have I mentioned that before? So that's what I think is kind of interesting, is that, like, we're getting more of a view of, like, what their day is like. You know, from day to day, they got a lot of responsibilities, a lot of different ways that they can interact and kill people, you know.
They gotta go bang a teenager at the Dairy Queen, and then they gotta go watch a movie.
Right. Sometimes they're gonna get, what is that, shore leave or whatever.
Shore leave.
Right. That's, when he gets coming to port, you go on.
Oh my God! How has ICP never done a cruise?
Wow. Oh
Guys,
my God.
Carnival at sea. Let's do it.
Wow. Oh, that would be amazing. I love cruises.
I know. I'd sign up so fast.
So it's a movie. So the movie is The Telltale Heart, right? It's Edgar Allan Poe.
Mhm.
He actually gets a writing credit. Edgar Allan Poe gets a co-writing credit on Wikipedia.
Ooh. Nice.
For this song. And I believe this is Legs Diamond reading the actual text of The Telltale Heart.
According to Genius, this is Mikey Clark.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. I think he sounds a lot like Legs Diamond. But
They do sound similar.
But that's amazing because I feel like he does a great job, sort of like super spooky reading it. It mixes really well with the song.
Yeah. I like the music on this song a lot. My only issue with the song is that it doesn't really tell a complete story. I mean, it tells a complete story through, the weird part is that it doesn't tell a complete story through the lyrics. It tells the complete story through the narration that Mikey Clark or Legs Diamond or whoever is doing, which I think is a little bit unusual for an ICP song. But I really like the music, and I especially the only thing that I had ever remembered about this song was someone saying "kill an old evil eye," which is it's an exciting couplet. It's an exciting phrase to turn, and it works really well in the song when they both say it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've been a fan of this song for a long time, and so I was excited. Clearly, this was the best song in this assignment, and well, I don't know. I shouldn't say that. I mean, anyways, well, you guys might like the other ones, but this song I liked it from. I love the narration. I love the music. It's a song I actually paid attention to because of the way they drew me in enough to make me want to listen to what is happening in the song, as opposed to just kind of numbly listening to it and thinking about something else. It was like how I normally listen to music. And so, I've always really appreciated this song. And I was even thinking, before, we were going to do this today, if I had to pick a song on this album, and I wouldn't say maybe it's not my favorite, but I would pick this one first almost always to listen to. Because I know I really like it, and sometimes I get mixed up with what other songs are, if I like them or not, until I start thinking of the chorus in my head, where this is one of the few songs I see the title and I hear it quickly and stuff like that. So,
yeah, I like the chorus a lot. It's got a very chanty thing going on. I think that the first verse, Violent J's verse, it has the weirdest setup for getting into what the song's actually about.
Yes.
So
right.
Violent J's told this story. He says, I'm headed door to door, and keep in mind, this is a movie that they're watching. These aren't the clowns. I'm headed door to door with my grandmother's cookie jar. I'm selling cookies 12 for $1. I ring the doorbell. Nobody wants any. I resort to going cheaper, 2 for a penny. Everybody, they hate me. I can tell when they spit and degrade me. And then he's like, there's only Old Man Willie on the hilltop. He's the only person who's left that I haven't tried to sell cookies to. And that's where we're introduced to Old Evil Eye. But the whole intro is so weird. It's just this tale for it's definitely Violent J, even though it's not.
Right. So this one I think is a little bit disjointed because it's at first we're introduced to the fact that he's motivated to kill this old man, and then the first verse of the song is Violent J explaining why how he came to be at that point. Right. My question to you guys is, what the fuck is Shaggy Two Dope talking about?
The first line of Shaggy. Well, I thought it was the same character, but now Shaggy says, "A day gone past since."
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So Jay tried to kill him, but then couldn't.
I don't know if they're both gonna try to kill him together. They're trying to figure out. he heard Jay freaked out and wants to kill him, and now he's infected by it too. Maybe I don't know. I was trying to think of some way, or it's just like a race to kill him first. Everybody wants to kill this old dude. Poor guy.
Yeah, I think it makes the most sense that they're the same character, but then clearly Shaggy ruins that in the first verse, in the first line, because maybe they were like, "Oh, we got to figure out why you're rapping now."
I guess I don't think I understand exactly or know exactly what the words are in his first line after he says he heard about Jay, met up in the sleigh because I don't fucking play. So he's like basically saying like, oh, I heard about this, so I got to get involved too because I'm hard. Like, I'm down to kill.
Yeah, met up in the sleigh makes more sense. Like, he gets in with Jay, and then they go to kill him. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I like the song a lot, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and also doesn't like tell a complete story.
Right, but I do agree with you. So one of the notes, the first notes that I wrote is that this song has a really big sound. That I feel like it's got a deep, rich sound, similar to like, to me it feels like a film. There's like emotional builds and stuff like that. Like you are actually watching a movie.
Yeah, it's really good. The production, the sound is top notch.
When there's I'm assuming Legs Diamond guitar riff in there, and it's this kind of like wee kind of thing. And it was making me think about, and I was listening to it over and over and over again, and I was like, that sounds like something I know, and I dug deep and I figured it out. It's from, it sounds very similar to a guitar riff in a Rage Against the Machine song called Clear the Lane. It was like a B-side on a Live and Rare record that came out. And there's a very similar guitar riff in there. And when I was trying to find it, I figured it was Rage Against the Machine, so I listened to a bunch of Rage Against the Machine songs. And I feel like Legs is really influenced by Tom Morello. Because the way that the guitar gets thrown in, or maybe Mikey Clark is, the way the guitar gets inserted, having Legs be that studio guitarist who can just do that weird, like, thing, I think that just is what made it work really well. If it was just... Well, later they work with guys like Slash. I don't know how that works, but
I mean, when you listen to their do they really kill Evil Eye? I know the narration says they do, but like Shaggy, he ends with him being frozen and staring into the eye and not being able to move, and then that's how it ends.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it doesn't make the song is actually told through the spoken word parts. Which don't
line up to what's happening in the I never
it's like two different stories. Maybe, you know what, okay, stay with me here, guys. Maybe the spoken parts are the movie that they're watching, and the Jay and Shaggy parts are things that happen to Jay and Shaggy.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
All right.
Well, because I thought it was sort of like them being kind of cheeky about how them writing a horror story. They could literally write the same horror story as Edgar Allan Poe, but people will continue to think that they're shitty or that it's bad for them to write scary stories when, like, it's just the exact same thing that a kid could read in a book from an author that everybody loves. Not that I would ever equate, ICP.
But I wouldn't have known that these are just passages from Edgar Allan Poe if you hadn't pointed that out. So
yeah, I didn't know that either.
I was wondering why they used these words.
These words.
All right, let's talk about 12.
These hands.
Which is not 17. 12 is a song about Not Violent J, a murderer who was sentenced to die by a jury, and now he has to kill the 12 jurors because his soul or his reanimated form has sworn that he'll kill 12 people before morning. And this song is another one that's like the sound is very like dense and the production is very rich, but to me this is not a rap as much as it is a chant.
Yeah.
Just he's just chanting the song. It's not really like there's no flow to speak of. It's just monotonous. Yeah. And that's not necessarily,
I have monotonous written in my lyric or my
that's lyrics, not necessarily a diss because it's a choice, but it's definitely like it's not really a rap.
Right. Very astute. I am not very astute because it wasn't until this last time that I listened to it that I realized that it was about a guy killing a jury. Like, it says guilty at the beginning, and then at the end he says, if you murder me just for your laws, and I'll come back for all y'all. But I was trying to figure out, why is he trying, what's significant of the number 12? Because I'm dumb. So do you guys want to run through how he kills all these people?
Sure, and he even doesn't mention some of them. That's to me, that's the most hilarious thing. Is like he's like, I'm gonna kill these 12 people. Here's how I'm gonna kill these 12 people, and he talks about like 3 in the first verse or 2. He talks about 2 in the first verse, and then he talks about like 1 in the second verse. He's like, oh shit, I'm like, song's getting too long. He just skips like yada yadas.
Right. Okay. So the first guy is just asleep right in bed, and he puts his fingers on his temple and pushes his fingers together and smushes his brain
until his fingers touch, which I think is amazing.
Yeah, that was one of the lines that I remember my friend Robbie being very excited to share with me, that idea. The second one actually made me think about earlier discussions that we've had about how they've been sort of indiscriminate in their killing, and that later they sort of make distinctions for good and bad people. And so he's come back and one of these jurors has a family, and so the person, Violent J or whatever, takes those kids out of the house and tells the wife to leave so that he can kill the man with a piece of furniture. He stuffs a dresser down his throat.
Yeah.
It's a good visual. It's horrifying. Now, the first time I was like half listening to the song, I was like thinking about like the line places children on the lawn, and I was like, oh, someone killed the kids and put them on the front lawn. But he's like literally like just taking the kids and be like, stay out here, be good, I'm gonna kill your dad.
Right.
And he tells his mom, like he tells the guy's wife, he's like, all right, peace out.
Right, don't look back. 3 and 4, I guess they're coworkers. Oddly, they work the night shift together. They both got placed on the same jury, and he smashes their heads together.
Mm-hmm.
5 was a nurse that he.
And they're just on their smoke break, man. Like, not cool. So that's 4. That's 4.
That's 4. Number 5 is a nurse, which I get. He doesn't say exactly how he kills her, but that he takes a knife and a scalpel and carves her face into a clown.
Yeah. So killed another, then 3 more. Then now we're down to only 4, but the math is wrong.
The math is wrong. So that was why I'm going through this.
She's 5.
Uh-huh.
But
another would be 6.
But if killed another is her, like he carved her face into a clown and then killed another, that would be 5, and then 3 more would be 8, and now we're down to only 4.
And now we're down to only 4. Okay.
Okay. I think that's the only way it works.
Okay, so we don't know what happened to those 3 more.
Yeah, 3. And then he spends a lot of time talking about the guy on the taxi cab.
Only to have another death via eating.
Yeah.
When he eats the steering wheel.
So
number 11 is the one that I'm curious about. He says that he's going to kill us. He says, I'm going to climb out of the TV and strangle you.
No. It's this man watches his TV, scanning channels endlessly, stops at station 44. It's the Wicked Clown Show. I do want to point out here, watch me juggle, watch me dance in 3D, watch me enhance, which is great. But he says, watch me crawl out from the screen and squeeze your neck until you're green. I want to point out him, a dead person crawling out of a TV screen and killing someone. This song was released 3 years before Ringu.
I wrote down Samara style.
Yeah. It was released 3 years before the Japanese original version of The Ring. So Violent J invented it.
And I mean, that's a pretty great description too. Squeeze your neck until you're green. Like, that's a pretty specific evocative imagery there that parallels.
Yeah. Well, hang on. So we're down to only 4. So he kills the taxi cab guy. That means they're down to only 3. Then he kills the TV guy. That should mean they're down to only 2. And then the third verse starts with, even though there's just 1 left. So the math is all fucked up the whole time.
Oh, right. Cause that's what I thought, is when he said there's only 4 more, then he only describes 3 more deaths.
Yeah.
So either way.
Maybe the 12th is himself, but that, of course, that doesn't make sense because he's killing the jury.
Right. So the last person who gets killed, ostensibly number 12, is garroted, which is kind of cool.
Which is even more impressive because he says that his ears and fingers are in the street. So he garrots a guy without any fingers or missing a bunch of fingers.
Well, and that was another thing I was interested, because he's guided by spirits to kill all of these people. So it's kind of a cool supernatural. I just pictured him. I got a lot of cool visuals listening to the song, like when he's putting the kids on the lawn. He's this like big lumbering enforcer type, like a kind of like a Michael Myers, like super rigid, really calm. But then so he's guided by spirits to kill everybody. But after he kills the second to the last one, the spirits stop helping him, and he starts to die again and fall apart and crumble. But then randomly the last person just runs by, like he's out jogging or whatever. He's like, oh, there he is. Better kill him quick. I don't know. It's maybe the magic of the Dark Carnival again.
It's really weird because like I've been listening to a bunch of true crime podcasts and reading and listening to a bunch of stuff about serial killers, and like it just like it's always like matching up like what I'm learning about serial killers with like ICP songs that I listen to. It's like I don't know if you guys know about like Jeffrey Dahmer. When he was a teen, he was obsessed with this guy that would go running past his house every day. And like when he was like 15 or 16, he was like, oh, I'm gonna kill that guy. Like this guy's gonna be the first person I kill. And like waited in the bushes with a baseball bat, and he was gonna hit him in the head. Well, he didn't specifically want to kill him. He wanted to lay next to him and fondle him. But he like waited in the bushes with a bat, and he was waiting for the runner to go by. And that was like the only day that runner never came by his house. And Dahmer just was like, oh, okay. And like sort of pulled back from the brink a little bit, and like then didn't kill for like a few years after that. But like good for that guy to not go running that day.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, but that's I'm just saying, like it could happen. You know, the guy could just go running and not notice the the decomposing guy hanging out in the street.
Well, you got to get your jog in.
Mm-hmm. I got to get one after we're done here.
So I felt like this song is actually physically difficult for me to listen to because of the high chimes. Like, there's a lot of really high pitched, like, I don't know if you guys had that same experience. Every time it comes on, I'm like, I'm like wincing.
No, because I have old man ears. So
I feel like it's
anything.
Right. No, my hearing is also very damaged. Thanks for being in a band with me. But I can hear high pitched stuff still, I guess. This one like really drills in, man.
I haven't noticed that, but I also, this is one of the songs I haven't listened to on headphones. So.
Oh yeah. You should listen to them all on headphones, Bill.
I know. I've been
trying to hear every sound.
Yeah. You know, it's unfortunate because the thing about with this song is, I liked the story. Like, it was like an interesting thing. I thought it was kind of funny. I know he's not trying to be anti-capital punishment, but it seems, but his last line, murder me just for your law and I'll be back for you all. I think it's funny because it can be interpreted as being anti-capital punishment.
I think that they probably are anti-capital punishment.
Yeah, I think
it could be,
I think it is supposed to be. That's what I think they're writing it about.
Well, but I just think it's funny because that's like their job for the Dark Carnival. It's capital. They like kill bad people all the time.
Okay.
But it's okay for them because they're from. Yeah, I mean,
right. It's just a story.
Yeah.
Dark Carnival's not real, you guys.
Well, also
you shut up.
Also, the problem with like societal capital punishment is that like it's fucked up and dumb. Like, whereas like it like so. Let's try to like rationalize it as like ICP might rationalize it, where it's like people who are like rich and like put down the downtrodden and like say sentence mentally ill people to die for like just being mentally ill. Like, that is fucked up, and those people should die for that. Like that's the people who make the rules super fucked up, and they probably don't agree with the rules that they've made saying like, oh, this person should be dead and this person should be dead because the people who make the rules should be dead.
I get that. I totally understand that. It's just comical to me to, like, that institution stems from religious beliefs that are as silly as believing if the Dark Carnival was real. You know what I mean?
Yeah, good call.
So, I mean, I guess so. Yeah.
All right. Cool.
I'm looking way too deep into that because they absolutely can, have their story and then be, against capital punishment. And
No, I think
it just
it's
struck
awesome.
me funny.
No,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
I think it's great.
Great observation that I would not have thought to have made. Let us talk about The Killing Fields, yet another song with amazing orchestration and production that I don't care about. It is our first glimpse at ICP's literal hell. It's when I started The Killing Fields, I was like, oh, is this going to be like about the killing fields? But it ended up being about hell, which is I do admire that it takes a bit to really figure out what's going on here, unless you're like, way into like Christian imagery, like Pete and I, or like Steve and I are. So yeah, they're in hell, and that's it. And we get and in this song, this is clearly Legs Diamond doing the preacher voice.
In my opinion, stealing the fucking show.
Yeah.
All of them is like he has a really scary line in the first one where he's like, it's all that you've done in your life. When you look back, what's it going to be? And I love when he really kicks the preacher voice up and he's like, you laughed at your family and laughed at your little wife. She begged you not to go to the bar. So great. He's really acting there.
Yeah. But I think that's where you
And
can
they've
tell
clearly
when
been
it's-
to church.
Yeah. And that's when you can tell when it's Legs, is like when he's like leaning into it. Because Mikey Clark doesn't really lean into it in Old Evil Eye.
That's why I was
Like, he does a good
actually and I almost said something on the other one, but I knew we were going to get to it here. And that's what I was like, oh yeah, that's why he's like so much more alive later in the Killing Fields. It makes sense. Right, different person. Well, I feel like the music, like you said, is really excellent in this. This is one of the tracks where I feel is unique because to me it feels like the drums are more out front in the music versus in most tracks, obviously the drums are kind of just in the background and there's usually like a wail or a horn. But in this one, it's like the hi-hat is like very loud, very up front and center, which is just something that's unique. But I do really like all of the visuals. To me, I was thinking of like the Wastelands or, any kind of like, I was thinking of this is like the more serious version of Out, right? Like Out's like his neighborhood and this is like the Upside Down or whatever, to make a more timely reference. Like that's what I feel like. It's like the hell is not, they're not in like fiery caves, with lava around them or whatever, right? He's like in the city still.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just think the
and I love
visuals are
that.
really, really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a song straight off Hell's Pit.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely. Yeah. That's what I was thinking of the whole time. I was like, wow, this is like way ahead of its time.
Yeah.
In terms of like, this should be on a worse album. But my favorite imagery in it was it's been 7 months, so he's chasing a baby billy goat with a human's head.
Yes.
Actually, that kicks off a really cool part where it gets really psychedelic, like he's chasing this goat and then there's a demon chasing him and then time's moving backwards, but he's still getting older.
Yeah. There's definitely cool stuff in here, but it's just like overall, it's like,
Right. I think it's missing some note, but I did feel like towards the end, I did feel like it was kind of, the music was kind of pulling me, and I was thinking about the drums, and that to me in the end it sort of feels like a march, like with the rolling snare of like the Civil War kind of march or whatever. And so it did have the music just had that kind of like marching quality, and that was like the most compelling thing I think that I felt about the song.
Yep, it's a city of lead.
Right, there you go.
I know hindsight's 20/20, but you read the lyrics of a song like this, and then we're supposed to be surprised at the end of Shangri-La when they're like, "It's God." I mean,
Well, it's funny because the whole time that they are talking about this, and like Steve, you and I were like always saw like the imagery, and we're like, oh, probably like Christian guys. But like the stuff with like the Lama Namanumi, like making fun of like shuckster preachers and like making fun of like people who are like using religion to like line their pockets and stuff, like that sort of stuff has always been there, but that sort of stuff is the people, like even Christians, like make fun of those people. So
yeah.
All right, shall we move on to the last song on the album?
You Can Go to Hell.
Okay.
That was
25 times.
The last note I had for the Killing Fields.
Oh, nice. Perfect. So, I live my life in the
Okay.
It's set like that. Like, it's so good. It's all very, very good. So this is I'm Coming Home.
I'm Coming Home. So we had talked about, remind me again, Bill, the two side names to this album?
This one is
Comedy isn't it the drop? Comedy and Tragedy.
Comedy and Tragedy.
Was that this one? Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Yes. Comedy and Tragedy.
Yeah, and so, you know, these songs have all been a little bit more serious in tone, maybe a little bit more, you know, drab or sad or angsty. Mm-hmm. But now we're ready to close out the record, so we need something to remind everybody how fucking cool ICP are and how cool it is to be part of the Dark Carnival.
And this is very, very hand in hand with like your theory about Riddle Box is what the clown's daily life is like. Because now they get to come home, and this is very much Shaggy and Jay, as Shaggy and Jay talking about like, oh, now we get to, you know, then we roll back home.
Right, like they've been on the road. It's either the clowns have been out with the Dark Carnival and they're gonna take some time off or whatever, or it's like Joe and Joey doing their thing like out on the road, and now but they always want to come home. They're meeting cool people or whatever, or maybe they're meeting dumb people out on the road, but they always want to come home because that's where the people are that love them.
I also feel like this could be read as they're going home to the Dark Carnival, which is where they're from. Like the Dark Carnival isn't just traveling town to town and killing people who deserve to be killed. It's also a place where people live and dwell.
Sure. I mean, it could be that.
I think it could be all those things and more.
But it's probably just Joe and Joey because they're going home to the killer cops that are beating on them.
Right. You know, he's going to break out the Faygo. Like, he's specifically coming home to Detroit. Like, he's coming home to Delray or whatever.
To a 72 Volare.
But the poisonous smog, breathing it in, he loves it.
He loves it, yeah.
He loves it. I mean, the song peaks with the intro, but...
Yeah, I mean, it's a good song. I really think that they took the last minute 50 off. It would really work better, and they could start the chant at the end, you know, a lot sooner than what they did. Mm-hmm. And, but you know, that's classic ICP. You know, really getting every last bit you can out of a chorus or a hook to the point where it's almost a Family Guy sketch.
Hmm.
Well, I did have I clocked the outro at, you know.
Okay, I'll stop.
I clocked the outro at 2+ minutes of that thing that they like to do, repeating the words over and over and over again. But I did feel like it builds, right? Like there's more background music, there's scratching that gets introduced, and then like you were saying, the chants, and so that made me feel like this like. And then it starts to fade out. And so that made me feel like a reminder of like all of the things like at the circus or whatever. The circus is ending and they're bringing in all the shit that they reminded you of, you know, people are coming in and taking their last bows. You're like, oh shit, I forgot. There's all that cool stuff. And everybody's in there and they're all doing their big bow and then they all leave and you're like, oh shit. That was fun, but I gotta go now. So it's almost, and then I noticed, and I'm curious if you guys notice this too, or what you think about it, but all of that extra shit fades out, and all that's left is the chanting, like the words, and the drum beat. And that keeps going for a little bit, and then that fades out. And so to me, it felt like that's us. Like the carnival is leaving, and all the fun and stuff that we had, it's over, and they're going on to the next town. But they left a little bit of that music with us. Like we kept it here, just a little piece of it with us.
Yeah.
And then that fades out. That's the end of the record.
That's why, even though this one is not like fully formed, I feel like this is the first like real final song on a Joker's card, because they always want to bring it back and like make it positive at the end and make it triumphant, but also, you know, make it somewhat epic. And I think that long fade out is like, you know, their first like, oh, you know, we can do something special with the last song.
For sure.
I was just reminded that I meant to bring up something on Old Evil Eye, like how high pitched Shaggy is on it.
His unusually high voice, yeah.
I think that it's possible that like they may have like recorded that song at a different like tempo
and had to turn it up or something.
Yeah, because it's like really weird. Like his voice is very high, like in a somewhat unnatural way.
Well, I'm curious about that too, because I think it is a Dead Body Man is recorded in a slightly different key. Like it's not perceptible to me. I haven't played him back to back to try to hear him, but so that could potentially be something too, that they decided for some reason to change the key and they just cranked him up.
Yeah, it's weird. We were like, oh, we did 3 songs back to back that are all in the same key. We should do this one and a different one. The other thing that I wanted to point out real quick is I just Googled it. They did not make a Volare in 1972.
Well, there's that one drop in the bucket of the unreliable narrator.
That was introduced in the first model year was 1976. So anyway,
maybe he needed the rhyme.
He did. It's 72. Yes, it comes in the middle of a. Because, you know, home to the killer cops beating on my ass, home to my 72 Volare praying it will last. Yeah, you needed that rhyme.
Well, I guess the last thing I want to say is that right before it does go out, the last thing that he says is he gives everybody else a final warning. You know, that fake people, Richies, if you're whack, you still got to watch out because he's coming for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then they say goodbye.
I'm a fan of this song. Like I said, it is like a little long, but I always did enjoy listening to it, because any of the songs that have the chance, especially when these are the kind of beginning of these iconic chants that will stick in your head. And I love the way you described that, Ryan, because I didn't pick up on it. I mean, I picked up on I thought the fade was great, and it actually felt like the fade's an important part of the song, but I hadn't put together like what you had said at the end with the drums and the chant and leaving that with us. And you guys helped me actually see this just entire album as a bigger, I mean, I always knew it was a story of the Dark Carnival, but like you guys really pointed out almost a story arc with it, and with it ending the way it did, that almost makes a perfect story arc. And it makes me appreciate this song a little bit more that I already liked going into this discussion. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. So final thoughts on Riddle Box, guys.
Just, you know, same thing that I said at the beginning. I don't think it's their best record, but I think for just the nostalgia of it, it's going to be probably the most important one to me. I'll find ways to describe different things as being my favorite, which is something I want to call Bill out, by the way, because I hope we're going to go through and say what our favorite track is as well, right?
Oh, yeah, sure.
But last time, Bill, I think it was what we went through, and there was 2 different records where you were saying your favorite, and you named like 6 different tracks, which is good that you like them, you know.
For my favorite,
right? You're like, well, it could be the Loons or your Wagon. It could be Chicken Hunting.
Well, no. What? Yeah. Well, the thing is, I wanted to say like I know that you guys like just like bump these songs, but I try to stay as close as possible to just listening to the assignment tracks each week. So my experience is a little bit different than especially Ryan, your experience with these. But I'm very surprised at how much I like Ringmaster and how much I love Riddle Box and how they're kind of close, which is crazy. Like I didn't expect that to happen. I didn't expect me to like Ringmaster as much as I did. And obviously I like Riddle Box more, but I think Ringmaster is just surprisingly very, very good and holds up really well.
Absolutely.
Let me think about what my favorite track on the album is, and you guys can go.
Steve, do you?
I could say what mine is, and it's probably disappointing for you guys, but Joker's Wild.
Well, some. Oh.
Yeah, no, Joker's Wild is my favorite song on this album. This is a solid album. There's no doubt. I like a lot of songs on it when I listen to it, but I don't look to this album to say, oh, there's a song I really need to listen to. If I'm wanting to do nostalgic ICP, I don't turn to this album, and I go back to what I talked about when we did Riddle Box. Ringmaster is I like Ringmaster as an album better than this one, and I said that when we did it because there's just some iconic songs on there for me that I love so much that any of those like 4 songs on Ringmaster that I like so much, I like better than any song on this album. So
yeah, and
Riddle Box is a great album. It's just I like Ringmaster better, and yeah,
it's cool, man. And actually, I mean, I hyped up Toy Box on the first episode, right, that we ever recorded in the intro episode, as being my favorite. And I think that that's always going to be the one that I identify as the one that links me to ICP. Like, so it's always going to be more important than any other song, because it's like the first one that I cared about or whatever, the first one that hooked me. But if I was just listening to this record today, Ryan, today, my favorite track is Headless Boogie. Which I didn't think a thing about ever until I listened to this, and it's like such a funky, cool. I mean, that's a good, fun track.
It's so good. It's very fun to rock in your car as you're driving around, for sure. Yeah. It's a good song. I'm gonna have to say my favorite song is probably "The Show Must Go On," which is sort of just obvious, but and then. Honorable mentions to Three Rings and Joker's Wild.
Yeah, I feel like the show must go on. That occupies in later, like especially in Malenko, and I think they do it on Jekyll Brothers too. Both of them. That kind of third song becomes it's a really important part in like the arc of the album.
Yeah.
And so I think that's cool. It's
like that's the formula. Is like there's a skit intro. There's an instrumental thing about what you're about to experience that sets the tone. And then there's the first song, which is what the album's about. And then the last song is the ballad.
Right. And that good, they get great at that for the next few albums, that kickoff track to really set the tone, let you know what you're in store for. So yeah, good pick, man.
Yeah, thanks. And, I experienced a lot that I really like now that I didn't know how much I liked before, like Toy Box, Cemetery Girl, Headless Boogie, and Old Evil Eye.
Nice.
Yeah, and I have really exciting news for Steve. Because
we know what's coming next.
Because our assignment for next week is to listen to the Tunnel of Love EP.
Yeah.
From June 11th, 1996, is a 40-minute EP about doing it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I haven't listened to it. I've glanced at the track listing. I assume most of the songs are about, but there's some good ones on here. Steve in particular will recognize many of these songs from Big Money Hustlers. So that should be exciting for him on at least some level.
I have this EP. I know this EP well.
Okay,
this has Super Balls and stuff on it.
It does have Super Balls on it.
Yeah, no, this is actually a pretty good EP.
Well, there's a lot of tracks on here. 8 tracks. Do you guys want to? Do you want to split it into 2 episodes?
If you want to, yeah. I mean, one of them. There's also the Triple X version has a 9th song, but that is not the item available on Spotify. The Spotify only has the 8-song track. So if we can manage to track down that 9th song, we can do that on the second week. But yeah, let's go ahead and do the first 4 tracks off of Tunnel of Love next week. It's the intro, Cotton Candy, Super Balls, and Ninja.
See, I know all those.
Yeah. I think this is a good idea to split it into 2 weeks, Ryan, because the last track is 10 minutes long.
Right. I just thought, the last time we did a 40-something minute EP, we ended up recording for like 2.5 hours. And it was a hell of an episode for me to edit.
Well, thanks to everybody for joining us. This is a blast. Great 3 Jokers cards down and 3 more still to drop. When the genie says on with the show, we'll see you next week. You can email us at dimcarnival@gmail.com, and you can check us out on Instagram and Twitter at Dim Carnival. Thanks to everyone for subscribing. Please rate and review if you're enjoying the show. Drop us a line if you like us. But until next week, everybody, I'm Bill.
I'm Steve.
And I'm Ryan.
And we're the Dim Carnival. And we live our life in the gutter.
All right, I'm ready to go when you guys are, if you want to.
I'm ready to order now. I got to go.
I'd like 3 Cholitos.
I ain't got no motherfucking Cholito, man.
I'm looking at this shit right on the fucking menu. I want a motherfucking Cholito.
Do you think that's like a chili burrito?
Dude,
Oh.
a Cholito, yeah, it's a real thing. It was a Taco Bell item.
Oh. Is it a chili burrito?
It was a burrito that had chili in it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it
I
was.
don't remember that.
It was short-lived and loved apparently by Jamie Madrox.
Aw.
Well, me and my brother used to make tons of those. We'd get like cans of Dennison's chili beans and just heat up tortillas and put a bunch of cheese and make burritos out of it. And we absolutely loved that.
Yeah, that's the Taco Bell business model.
Yeah.
We just put slop in this tortilla. Yeah, we all love it.
In my recollection, the Cholito tasted similar to the Del Taco combo burrito, which is, I think, the superior. Yeah, I think it's a great Del Taco burrito. So it was good. Yeah,